Hi, I'm David Templeton. Welcome to a Strings Guide video presentation about building an artistically and commercially successful chamber ensemble. I'm joined today by the members of the Sol Quartet, violinist Kate Stenberg and Rick Shinozaki, violist Charlton Lee, and cellist Catherine Bates Williams. Today we'll be discussing what advice this quartet, formed in 1992, has about expanding to a quintet. How does one make the fifth player mesh with the quartet's refined sound? How, if at all, does the fifth player affect group dynamics? Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back. Let's talk about how to recruit and play with a fifth or maybe even sixth player. Has the Sol Quartet ever performed as a quintet or sextet?
Oh yeah.
All the time. However, I think our quintets or sextets or whatever are a little bit more unusual than your traditional extra cello or extra viola.
Right, or piano.
Or piano.
Percussion.
I mean, we've done piano, percussion, didgeridoo. What else?
Working with electronics, with traditional Chinese instruments.
Korean instruments.
Singers of a variety of different types of styles of music.
Dancers.
DJs.
I'm sure there are more.
We have coming up cajon.
But I think probably the premise is always the same, which is we have a group dynamic going on here, and when we have another person, we do just kind of open that up and invite them into the family, and to make it feel like a welcome place. So we try not to get too much of the inside jokes or inside terminology, but really welcome them into the process that we do on a daily basis, or concert rituals or whatever it is, to invite them to be a part of that, so that they feel like they're a vital part of the music, because they are, and that becomes just this amazing sort of influx of new energy and new ideas that really inspire us, even just coming back as the quartet.
What other ways can you make the fifth or sixth players mesh with the quartet's refined and established sound?
You can still, I mean, we start off our rehearsals usually with some type of warm-up, whether it's scales or chorales or improv pieces. We often do improvs with our collaborators, and just to try to get a sense of their personality, their musical personality as well, and to see how they respond to spontaneously to different types of musical input.
I think that's how we started with Janice Garrett, Charlie Moulton Dancers. Was a lot of improvisation together, trying to figure out what we can do as dancers and musicians together. How far can we go as musicians in a physical realm? And of course, how far can the dancers go playing instruments? But it was very interesting.
That was one of our most rewarding collaborations, I would say. Very eye-opening,
interactive and
not
spontaneous.
Only is it we're working with 4 other performers, but in a completely different field, and for us to and so 4-on-4 is much more balanced. It's not just inviting one person into our group, but now it's like we're sharing with a completely different group, a different language of aesthetic understanding, and different medium of expression, and so part of the exploration as we were developing this performance was to see what the limits of what we could do physically, what they could do, and what was possible between these two worlds, and it was so enlightening.
It's a little bit like being little kids and playing together and seeing what happens. It's like, let's just play games in a little bit of that sense, whether it's the dancers or whether it's a musician, and finding your rhythm together as this new unit, and your sound together, or your physical expression together, or whatever the medium that we're talking about is.
And sometimes it's just playing together. Sometimes it's just, let's sit down and play, the piano competition. We sat down and played with each one of those pianists and got to business, got right to work right away, and that was our collaboration. So I think it depends on the collaborator.
I feel like we go in with a generous spirit of perhaps not having a preconceived idea of what our sound will be at first, but let's see what do you bring and how do we respond, and so it becomes it's an emotional experience, as it should be.
How do those collaborations, bringing in these new people to do these interesting projects, how does that affect Del Sol's artistic life? What does it do for you as a unit?
I think of bringing in our collaborators as being the composers that we bring into our world. That affects me very deeply in each language that they have me learn, and it's really getting to know a person very deeply, their soul, their spirit. What are they trying to say? Some of the content is very deep and difficult, and some of it's very joyous and uplifting, and to me it's speaking directly to the heart and to what makes music so mysterious and magical.
Yeah, that's really important. I don't think we traditionally think of the composer as a collaborator. We just see dry notes on a page and interpret, but somehow we need to get through that directly to the soul, directly to the spirit. And not easy when they're gone, but it's a really, really worthwhile challenge.
There's also a strong sense of sharing, that we're sharing this wonderful music together and doing what we normally do within the quartet and expanding that out. And if you have an instrument, say, like when we work with Jeff, a clarinet, which doesn't do much vibrato, has a very clear, particular type of sound. In a sense, we're approaching it as if one of our members wanted to try some, a non-vibrato, over the fingerboard type of sound, and we wanted to see how to interpret that and work on that in a particular piece. And so it's not really that much different in terms of how we work or what we're doing.
It's about getting into the other person's shoes. It's just that it's a little bit closer when it's a cello to a viola, a cello to a violin, than it maybe a didgeridoo. But it's the same idea of like, how does the physicality of their instrument or their body do this? How can I respond as a cellist, as a quartet, to make that work? I think Yo-Yo Ma has been most successful because he's brilliant at doing that. He's met a lot of people in that and said, hey, how do I get a cello to fit into this kind of music and match my sound to do this? And I think, that's the greatest joy of collaboration is the ability to step outside oneself and what you typically do and expand it outwards, whether it's another string player, whether it's a clarinet, whether it's a didgeridoo, whether it's dancers. Just keep expanding it outwards, and you get a larger piece of the artistic community and the global artistic community.
One important thing to remember is when you're working with singers or wind players that you can't tell jokes while you're playing.
No, you can't. Shouldn't make them laugh.
You can.
You can, but they won't be able to play anymore.
Not during a concert.